peeps, welcome back to Project Anonymous. Today we're going to be using two different methods of embroidery, one being Trapunto, a quilting method using a thick material under your fabric. The other method we'll be using is a knockdown stitch, where we'll embroider a pattern that will raise a design. So let's get to it.
Alright, so now that we're in Inkscape, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our design, which is of course just our logo here, and I'm going to go ahead and trace this image so that we can use it as a SVG. I'm going to go ahead and resize this now, and I want to hit Control so it doesn't warp. I think I want this to be around 3 inches, so I'm going to lock the perspective here and then just kind of change this to 3, and you can see it resizes the height as well. And I'm going to use my 4x4 hoop template because we'll be able to use our magnetic hoop for this. So now that I have it traced, what I want to do is I want to just use an outline of this. I don't want the whole kind of thing to fill with a fill stitch. As of right now, if we went to the embroidery machine, it would just be a fill stitch. What we're going to do is we're going to give it a stroke. So to do that, we are going to hit the Shift key, and I'm just going to select a visible color so you can see it, and there's our stroke, and then I'm going to release the Shift key and press this little red X, which should get rid of the fill. So that's basically it. What I want to do is set up the params here, because what I want this to be is a very tight running stitch or bean stitch to kind of perforate the foam. For this first project, we're going to use some craft foam to create that effect to lift the fabric up. Go to Extensions, Inkstitch, Params, and I'm just going to verify this is going to give me a good bean stitch of the right size. Okay, bean stitch. So let's see. The length here I do want to adjust. I'm going to change this to, let's say, 1.5 millimeters. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a single repeat, so it's going to be technically 2 stitches across. And that, again, the purpose of this stitch is to kind of lock down the craft foam and perforate it so that we can tear away the excess. So I'm going to hit Apply and Quit here. And now I'm going to select this again, and I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate, and then I'm going to change the color just so that you can see. I'm going to hit Shift, and then I'm going to turn this red, and you can see it's just underneath that yellow. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that move. And now that I have that red selected, this is going to be after I put the foam on, after I tear away the excess foam and then put our fabric on top. I am going to stitch our fabric down using this one, and I don't need it to be a really small bean stitch. This one is going to be kind of a regular stitch around, so I'm going to change the params of this. All right, and that should do it. I'm going to hit Apply and Quit. Okay, so here's what we're going to use for our first one that we're just having that bean stitch hold down some craft foam. We're using a mid-weight stabilizer. Very important here is choosing the correct stabilizer for this project. If you use a tearaway stabilizer, the same perforation effect that we're going to have on the craft foam can happen on the stabilizer too. So we suggest using a non-tearaway stabilizer for this project. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this down on our magnetic hoop, and we're going to float a piece of foam on top and have that stitch out, tear away the excess, and then we're going to float our fabric on top of that once that foam is down, and we're going to hold this fabric down onto our project using some basting adhesive to kind of make sure we get it worked in there, and then we stitch out the top, and hopefully we'll get nice results. So we'll check that out. Okay, so part one of this is sewn out. Now we need to very carefully tear the excess of this craft foam away, but we have to be very careful because if we pull too hard, we could potentially tear our underlay. We could potentially tear away the wrong piece of the foam. So I'm going to use this little pointer here to kind of press down on the part we want to keep while trying to rip this out. Then this should tear away along that perforated edge. And if you are having problems with it, you can reduce the length of this bean stitch in the param settings. Probably should have done a closer stitch to perforate that a little bit better. You can see it's kind of messy, but it should be okay because we're using a thick material. Honestly, from our experience, the thicker the material that you have, the better results that you'll get. All we're going to do is we're going to use some basting adhesive, spray it on this, and then kind of get this worked into that and then stitch it down. Okay, so here is our first style using our craft foam, and you can see it actually laid out really nicely. Really nice results. I actually like that. A little bit flatter. If you wanted to go thicker, you could double up on your foam to get this to pop out even more. But this is honestly quite perfect results for me and what I'd want. So the next thing for us to do is try out our second style, and we'll go ahead and do that over here. For this second one, we don't need any craft foam, we just need our stabilizer, and we're going to float this on top. Okay, so for our second style, it's similar but somewhat different. Rather than re-importing my picture, I'm just going to use the same one that we used from the first one. But what I do want to do is kind of inverse this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of draw a square around this, and I'm going to turn this square red. And I'm going to bring this to the background so I can see my yellow again. And to do that, hit my selector tool and then just bring this to back. Okay, so now what I actually want to do is I want to use some of these pieces here to kind of cut this red so that we can keep the red and get rid of all the negative space. So to do that, I'm going to click on this, hit shift, click on this, and I'm going to do a Boolean cut. All right, perfect. I can get rid of this outline now. You can see that's exactly what I wanted to happen. This, I just want to give an outline. So I'm going to hit shift. You can see I create that outline again. And then I want to get rid of the fill here. So basically, I think that's it. The key part about this now is to set our underlay and our fill, because that's all we really want. This yellow is just going to be a running stitch around to kind of hold down the fabric and kind of create an outline to our design here. We could, of course, have left that red square or shape that red square to create a knockdown around that, but I think we're just going to use this running stitch around to outline this circle around our design. But this red part is key. We need to set up our params. We're going to go ahead and select that, go to params, and now we're going to do some adjustments. It's not going to be an autofill anymore because it will just kind of give us a regular fill. What we want it to do is make it kind of look a little bit fancy. So we're going to do some changes here, and we'll start off with spaces between rows. I'm just going to kind of expand that out and do a 45-degree angle. Let's go to our underlay and do some settings there. So fill angle is going to be -45. And then I'm going to turn off the underpath, and you can see this immediately cleans up a lot of the excess here. So I also need to adjust the spacing, change that to 2 so that we get equal results. You can see it's kind of doubled there. So I'm going to hit 2, and you can see that it kind of tightens up everything. And now we have a nice grid pattern of what we want. The last thing I need to do is kind of get rid of these. So I'm going to get rid of that underpath. And that's kind of exactly what I want. So that's this. I'm going to hit apply and quit. And then on our outline here, I'm going to do a separate params check just to make sure that this is going to be a running path. And it is. Okay, so here's our side-by-side results of our type 1 using craft foam and type 2, which is really just a knockdown stitch, and it is raised. Obviously, the thicker the material, the better when using this type of method, but both are actually pretty cool results.